Aloha, YouTube investors. How are you doing today? My name is David Yansen. Welcome to my channel. Today is November 1st. It is Sunday, 2020, and this is my Fidelity account. It is earnings season, so we're going to be talking about Abbvie in this video and how they did for their earnings for this quarter. So not really going through my individual brokerages like I have done in previous videos. If you want to see all my holdings from my other video, sorry, if you want to see all my holdings, I do have other videos. If you click on my name and you check the playlist, all my brokerages are broken down and organized for you. My three main brokerages that I use on a regular basis. First, with M1 Finance, I have a Roth IRA. I am working towards and almost there to maxing out my Roth IRA, the $6,000 that you are allotted every single year to put into your Roth IRA. I believe I'm a little over $5,000 now, so I should get there, if not by the end of this month, the beginning of next month, December. And my Fidelity account here is a dividend growth. I am primarily a dividend investor, but I do have Robinhood for growth and capital gains. So I have Amazon, Facebook, and a couple other what I consider risky companies in there as well too. I do have a few, not a few, three or four dividend companies in my Robinhood portfolio, but feel free to check out my previous videos. And then maybe later on this week or next week, I'll start doing videos updating my regular profile, my regular portfolios again. So, and my dividend tracker, the website that I use to track my dividends has been having some issues. I did just do a video on that as well. So it's not accurate because after emailing them, they told me that they have been updating it. So I don't know if next week I will have a dividend tracker video for you. So, but let's go ahead and get into Abbvie for this video. As you can see here, they reported their earnings on October 30th. They have already increased their dividend, a 10% increase in dividend. Abbvie is considered a dividend aristocrat, as they're a spinoff of Abbott Laboratories, who's a dividend aristocrat as well too. So per share, going forward, ex-dividend date 1/14 of next year will be $1.30. I own, whoops, wrong way. I own 8.42 shares, fractional shares. Thank you very much. Love fractional shares, probably the majority of my holdings. If not 95%, for sure 90% of my holdings I've bought with fractional shares over the last 15, 16 months. So I won't get paid for all of this. I think I'll only get paid for three or four shares for that payment date that is coming up. Or I think it actually is this week. Yeah, I think it's the 5th of this month. And then going forward, everything that I buy before January 14th of next year, I'll get paid that $1.30 per share for. So looking at their earnings, Alpha Street, I like this website. It gives you this nice graph and chart here. This is their quarter three earnings for 2020. You can see their revenue jumped 52%, which is really good, is really amazing. Almost $13 billion. Gap net earnings jumped 23%, and then gap EPS jumped 2%, non-gap EPS up 21%. So segment revenue details, you can see it all broken down here. Most of their drugs I do not know how to pronounce, so I'm not going to go into the different segments here telling you exactly which drug they have into it, but Abbvie is a very nice company to own. In my opinion, their dividend yield is, I think, a little over 5%, which typically I would say is high. But I do own AT&T, which is 7%, and as long as they've got the cash flow and they've got growing revenues, I don't mind if their dividend yield is that high. Concern is how long can they maintain that dividend at that high yield? But as of right now, it seems like they're okay, especially when you bring in revenue that increases 52%. That's amazing. If we scroll down here, looking at geographic revenue, United States, almost $10 billion, up 58%, 9.89 billion. International, almost $3 billion, up 34%. And then the outlook for the next quarter, projection, fiscal year 2020, three. Oh, they're expecting it to be down. Okay, so the non-GAAP expecting to be up, but the GAAP expected to be down anywhere between $3.89 and $3.91. But the non-GAAP earnings per share is expected to be up. This is the projections. It's not a guaranteed thing. $10.47 to $10.49. And then here's a quote by the CEO Richard Gonzalez. If you want to read this here, he talks about some of these drugs that I have no idea how to pronounce. I can say them in my head, and I think in my head when I'm reading it to myself, I'm saying it right. But when I say it out loud, I can barely get the syllables together, or all these not continents, constants. Okay, I can't say it. So all the letters that aren't vowels, basically, I'm not able to get together. So some other highlights for the company here. You can see operating income up 24%, 3.2 billion. Operating costs and expenses 9.65 billion, and then GAAP operating margin 25%. Another concern with Abbvie that I have, but nothing really major, is this main arthritis drug that they have, which was pretty much all over the world, but the patent has expired overseas outside of the U.S., and it is due to expire here in the U.S. as well too, which means that now companies can start making generic forms. So international markets already, there's a decrease of 9% because the competition for knockoffs, or I guess generic is a better word, are already over there internationally, where sales increased almost 8%, 7.7% in the US, because that patent hasn't expired yet. So that is a concern, because this drug reported net revenues of $5 billion. And for this last quarter, that's 4% more than last year. So once that expires here, and I'm sure there's tons of other companies sitting out there, I wouldn't be surprised if Pfizer or Moderna or Gilead Sciences or any of these other ones are just sitting there chomping at the bit with their drug ready, probably already approved or really close to being approved by the FDA, that they can just drop this generic drug to compete with this arthritis drug, Humira, that Abbvie has been famous for and has kind of been the staple. Now, the plus side, and I think Abbvie was kind of smart with this. It did take a lot of debt. I believe it was 30 billion, if not more, maybe a little bit less, in debt for them to acquire Allergan, which is Botox. So that sits under the aesthetics area here, or maybe it's under eye care. I'm not entirely sure, because it does reduce eye wrinkles and forehead wrinkles and stuff like that. The Botox drug. So that, I think, in my opinion, was a good maneuver by them, because they want, they need another like signature type product or whatever after this Humira falls off. So that might actually keep them, generating really strong revenues, but time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Yahoo Finance has an interesting number here that I wanted to point out to you. So, okay, here it is right here, just below this video. Let me zoom in. Abbvie, which belongs to Zacks large cap pharmaceuticals industry, posted revenues of $12.9 billion for the quarter ended September 2020, surpassing Zacks' consensus estimate by 1.83%. This compares to a year ago revenues of $8.48 billion. So that's the numbers that I actually wanted to show you. I told you it was 50% up, but then that's the numbers that makes up the billions and billions that these companies bring in every single year. So there was one other thing here about their fiscal year change. Okay, here it is. So I mentioned to you in dollars their earnings per share. So the consensus as far as billions, that $2 estimate, $2.92 that I mentioned for the earnings per share, that would be on $13.5 billion revenues coming for the quarter. And the $10.42, that would be on 45.28 billion revenues for the current fiscal year. So quarter, 13.5 billion is the consensus estimate, and then for the fiscal year, the estimate would be over $45 billion. So that is Abbvie for you. I think that is all of my companies. earnings report that I own. I do have Alibaba and a couple others this week that are reporting that I will do videos on, so stay tuned for those. Otherwise, mahalo and aloha, everybody.